Greetings, commanders, and welcome to the second part of our Frontline Report, where me and Elio are going to talk a little bit about upcoming things and finally reply your questions. The questions you could have asked on our Discord, so please join our Discord. It's the best way to communicate with other players, to provide feedback, to find new teammates for 2v2s, to find new strategies, to discuss units and whatever. So something you've promised us in the second half of the first video, yeah, I still remember that. What's the second big new thing that's coming in 1.33?
All right, so it's going to come a bit after 1.33,
okay,
but it has the same, let's say, strategic impact. Not the same strategic impact, but same strategy ambition to make your deck more customizable and to give you basically like room for you to define what you can do in the battlefield. So one thing we didn't touch on so far to change per nation is officer/general.
oh,
so
new officers.
Exactly. So you're going to be able to actually change the officer that you have for, we're going to start with the three legacy nation, let's say. Japan is going to come a bit later. But this year, if all goes well, we're going to have one new officer for USA, Germany, and USSR. The skills that they have, we don't know yet. We're going to see if we have time, to be a bit innovative, or if it's going to be a combination of the existing skills in different value, different cost, etc. We're checking that out at the moment. But basically, we want you, we have some players who pick a nation sometimes because they really like, for example, the first skill of Germany, which is really impactful. We want that to be a little bit more gray, where you pick the nation because you like the nation, because you quite like, a part of the you need for that nation, but also, the skills, you can actually change them, if needed. At the moment, we find that that part is a bit missing, It shouldn't be a defining factor just because of the officer skill,
Another question that most of the people will have right now, what about the visuals? Will we have the new characters, new avatars for them or something?
Yeah, so it's going to be totally different officers. So it's not actually, you're not going to, select a subset of skill for that officer. It's going to be a totally new officer with new visual, potentially avatars as reward for the release. We will see about that. But at least, it will be like voiceover, everything. It's a new general/officer.
So new abilities, new looks, new voiceovers.
Yep.
I already like that. I wanna try out, obviously for Germany, for my main nation.
Fair.
So in the last few weeks, we've been collecting your questions in our Discord server, and finally we are able to answer at least some of them, not all of them. There have been dance and dance. We would spend the whole day answering all of them. But the most interesting, the most valuable are in here right now. And I hope Elio will have some answers for us. So question number 1, and that's something that a lot of players have inquired about. Are there plans to introduce a system of clans? And as a follow-up for that, a chat system, also a means of communicating within the game?
So I will... Yes, for clans. Yes. We're actually, it's in the roadmap at the moment for early next year. So hopefully Q1 next year, if we encounter some delay Q2, but it's one of the next big thing. We have all the unit skills, etc. But next is going to be the clans. We are not sure yet what's going to be the full first implementation. If it's going to be just, clans and ways to actually play with your teammates, etc. A bit easier than friend list, because it's going to be bigger. It's going to be easier for you to just onboard one clan and then you have access to all these users to play with, right away, which is going to be quite cool. We want to expand the feature eventually. I just don't know if we're going to be able to do that for the first time, but potentially, having a weekly quest for your clan. So actually, if you and your teammate complete some actions, you get actually really cool rewards, etc. So to really engage the users and make you able to participate. In that clan, having a chat system, probably, Again, not certain yet. The chat is a bit of another beast of its own to add to the game, So it's one thing to have it constrained, and it's another thing to have it global as well. Even in terms of like what we have to do in terms of moderation, in terms of not just you, Like it's a bit of it has a lot of intricacies. Just adding chat is not that crazy, But actually all the intricacies that comes with it are a bit trickier. So I'm not sure right now if we're gonna have a chat in War Armies. It's not. We're gonna investigate and see. Clan system, yes, we're gonna have a clan system. Now, the first delivery, we will see, but Q1, Q2, clan system is coming.
And maybe potentially even clan events where all the players have to contribute and share the rewards or something like that.
Exactly, I hope so. I mean, that's the plan, Like I just don't know if we're gonna be able to do it for the first iteration. But that's the long-term plan. We want really to have like a strong activity, with your clan.
Okay, that's some perfect news, really. What about new maps?
So I think since you joined, we talked about that, and it was hard to prioritize. Again, like we like maps, but if we see like what players are playing, etc., especially in the first league, we have a focus really on coast lane, etc. When it was hard to be like, okay, like are we going to be able to put another map that's going to challenge that? Is it going to be worth it, etc. But right now we're reaching a stage where we're going to start actually the design of the map within the next few weeks. Again, I can't really give strict delivery, but we're trying for this year. We're trying for this year to have one new map, and maybe after that to have a bit more of a certain pace. Maybe every quarter or every 2 quarters, one new map. A bit as the pace we're trying to have with the rebalancing. We're trying to give the game a little bit more of a pace, so you guys know that there's something coming quite regularly. It's not like, oh, this year what's happening. It's like you know the rough structure of the content for the year. So that's something that we're working on. So one new map this year, quite certain. Not fully certain, but quite certain. And then hopefully like 1 or 2 new map next year.
Sounds great. Okay, so now switching to less pleasant questions. Do you guys have any plans to fix the matchmaking manipulation in ranked? So for those of you who are unaware, there are some bad actors who are using low-level units so that their average deck tier is lower, and they are matched against, like they have several high-level units and they are matched against less leveled players.
We're working on it. We don't have like one super clean solution, that's just like, let's do it like that and it's going to solve the problem. If it was like that, we would have done it already. We see this and we want players to be competitive and to play as much as they want. And technically, you shouldn't have to worry about this kind of system, to downgrade yourself. And that's not something that we want. So we have a long-term solution that's going to fix that 100%. But I don't know when we're going to be able to put that live. It's going to take some time. It means reworking some of our systems, progression system that we have right now, and to add another layer on top of it. To stay vague, but to give you a little bit of an idea. But that takes quite a bit of time. So that part I'm not sure. In the meantime, we're trying here and there, sometimes with unpopular decisions as lately. But we're trying here and there to see like what's driving that kind of behavior. How can we actually try to temper it and to tune it down? So short term, we're going to keep on doing that. And let's say short term, I mean like within a couple of months, we're going to keep on doing these small adjustments to try to tackle it. And if we can't, there's this larger system that we want to work on. A bit more, let's say, just to give a very high level teaser of season division. So, we'll have like gold division, bronze, etc. All the 4, 5, if we follow, like the rewards that you get, with the avatars, iron to platinum. So kind of this division that actually within the full season. So it will be a system that's a bit harder to manipulate, but it takes time and we have a lot of things to put live, so it's gonna probably come at some point, but I don't know when,
Okay. So as you heard, we are aware, we know about that. There are several approaches to how that could be tackled, but we just don't want to make any rush decisions.
Exactly.
For your own benefit.
For sure.
Yeah. Another question: will the ghost shell issue will ever be addressed and fixed?
I hope so. So we're changing our approach to give you a bit of context about the philosophy that we have. We were really feature focus driven, and now we're actually like a bit expanding and having several verticals. And long-term tech issues is one of these verticals. Right now, for example, it's taking a very long time because it's a big project, but we're working on handling disconnection and recognition much better. It's something that our performance is quite poor at the moment, and if you have any issue, you're out, or you're playing with bots, etc. You know, we want to tackle that. So that's one of the big projects that we started actually more than months ago, and it's going to take us like quite some time to finish. But we have Ghost Shell as well, for sure. That's on the radar. We estimated how long it's going to take us to fix. We think we'll be able to fix that relatively soon. Now, maybe early next year. Again, I wish we could fix all that, guys. I really wish we could fix all that tomorrow, but we need to prioritize to make everything work together. It's something we want to fix. We want you to feel like the game is reactive at all time, and Ghost Shell miss that, you know.
Yeah,
you feel like there's
true.
a part of reactiveness that's missing, and we hate it. Just to be clear, we don't like it. We're going to fix it.
So it's not only Ghost Shell that is going to be addressed, but the connection issues, never loading into the battle, it's also on top of our priorities. So Shadow, please stop mentioning me on Discord. It's getting a little bit annoying, but we are aware, and it's going to be addressed hopefully quite soon.
Only one disclaimer I would say, like when I say address, hopefully we're going to eradicate, like let's say 70% of the cases, you know.
Yeah.
Some issues we're not going to be able to fix 100%, but we want to eradicate most of the common cases that you guys are experiencing.
Okay, back to more neutral questions.
Sure.
Nations.
Yes.
Since we recently launched Japan, and there is a lot of feedback, a lot of players are asking about potential new nations. When creating a nation in War Armies, what are the considerations made?
Well, it's a bit tricky. Since I'm here, where we launched one nation, Japan. Well, since you're here as well. What we considered, we wanted to give it a bit of a different feel in terms of like the officer skills, for example, what they do. You know, for example, we have with Japan the first officer skill that's actually a bit of a skill shot. You know, it requires a bit more. It gives a lot, you know, when you nail it down and you land it properly. But it's not just tap on the circle and like, you know, 0.x seconds, which involves timing, don't get me wrong, you know, but it's a bit less than the Japanese officer skill. We usually take a first approach, let's be honest, about what we want the nation to achieve and to give like quite cool strategies. Like for example, with Japan, you have like the mortar strategy. You know, you have like some merge strategy that are quite interesting. You have actually a tank in tier 1. We wanted to give like that kind of diversity that makes you feel fresh, you know. This is a bit more like, you know, you have Protoss, Terran, and Zerg, you know, like we want to give that a little bit. But let's say over time that may not disappear, but let's say be more nuanced, because then we have more and more units, you know. Now we have the Honey arriving, you know, for Japan, like which was lacking in artillery. So long term, you know, we want to actually tune that down a little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly the second question. Are all nations supposed to have its own distinctive way of playing, or is it going to be a little bit different? Because the game started with 3 nations that had really different play styles, and now it feels like with getting more units, more abilities, so it's not as straightforward anymore. You can use different abilities, different ways of playing for each and every nation.
To be honest, it's a discussion we had internally before finalizing the rebalancing, for example, of USSR. Do we go deeper in specialization of nation, or do we nuance that more? And right now, the direction is to nuance it a little bit more. You know, to put like, instead of putting, you know, some nation like better in tier 3, tier 2, tier 3, we're gonna have that with some units, you know, that have the spotlight in these tiers for that nation, but we're not making it the core of the nation. You know, that's why even the tier costs are gonna come closer and closer to what they are. You know, like sometimes some choices that were made some time ago as well are not really what we want to achieve anymore. So I think we're always gonna have a flavor given by officer skill and by the first pick of unit. That flavor over time is still gonna be there, but a bit more nuanced. Yeah. So let's say it's not gonna be as strong as, again, to mention StarCraft 2, you know, Terran, Protoss, Zerg. It's not gonna be as strict as that, but there's gonna be, let's say, 20% of that as a flavor for that nation.
Speaking of StarCraft, obviously lots of players mention StarCraft as a pinnacle of balance, so to say, and there are questions about balance as well. What does the game being balanced means to the dev team? Balance of nation mean to the dev team, like having certain amount of units, legendary units, infantry, long range, or all common units are, let's say, C tier, epic units, A tier, legendary S tier, and so on? Or do we have a different approach to the balancing?
Part of that is true. I mean, like some changes, as you know, I'm not gonna lie. Some changes that we made lately where we had some epic units that that were less strong than common units. I'm talking like more than 6 months ago. Changes, So there's a part where I think like if we have rarities in the game, it needs to mean something. Now, does it need to mean just it's more powerful? Maybe it's a bit more nuanced than that. Maybe a common unit needs to have a bracket of performance, and the legendary unit needs to have a bracket of performance. So the most interesting legendary units, yes, may be more powerful than other units, but not all legendary units are more powerful than anything. So we have some legendary units that are not used by players because they're not that interesting. So within each rarity, we have almost this C tier to S tier, that you said. We almost have it per rarity as well. So if you have actually, let's say, some units, for example, mouse, something like that some players maybe use a bit less, or they use because they have, and it's the only unit in that tier or something, but they're not really actually activating it in the battle, or Goliath, etc. Maybe, let's say, in the bottom part of legendary. And as you know, some units, for example, like Panzer 2 in Epic, will be actually higher than a lot of legendaries. And even some commons right now are still more used, like everybody, like riflemen and like recruits and all these kind of units, they give you control over the battlefield, etc. So people will still use them quite a lot. So yes, the best legendaries will probably be better than the best epic, but the best epic, for example, will be better than an average legendary. And the best rare will be better than a low legendary. It's more or less that. After this is, let's say this is very high level, it's not one-to-one that in the game, but very high level, it's a bit the philosophy. After, if you have better rotation for a tank that's actually like rare than the tank that's a legendary, you're going to be able to actually make better moves, get 2 shots instead of 1. The game is much more complicated than that, as you guys know. But let's say this is the high level philosophy.
Understood. I hope that also makes sense to you guys, especially knowing that some of you spend a lot of time deck building and trying to figure out the best deck possible, best combination of units, which are not always the legendaries. No. So I hope that answers your question. Another one about something that has been promised a long time before me and you joined.
Okay.
When will custom matches and replays be available? Players have been waiting for these features since the game release. Do we have any plans?
I don't have a clear answer for that one, to be honest with you. We want it. We quite like, parts of the tournaments that happen, we want to. We don't have plans to redo it just yet, but at some point we want to do something like that.
I want that so much. I want you guys to be able to run community tournaments and to be able to play against your friends in 1v1s or 2v2s. But yeah, it's still on the track.
Yeah,
we still think about implementing it.
Exactly, and I'm not saying it won't happen, but let's say I don't want to give you, when I say soon, for me it's like this quarter or next quarter. I think it's not going to be that soon, but it's very possible it happens Q2 or Q3 next year. I'm talking Q1, 2, 3, just to be clear, quarter 1, 2, 3 of the year. It's how we plan the content. We decide on that's the strategy for the quarter. That's what we want to bring to the players, etc. I think most likely Q2 or Q3 next year. I think we're underestimating the impact of this feature. We know it's going to have a big impact, don't get me wrong, everyone wants it, but War Armies still needs some other things as well, So that's when, it's always the game of priority, what we put first, etc. I'm hoping that you guys are feeling that we're doing it better. We're trying really to improve month over month, to actually have these different verticals now, for the tech, tech, UX, feature. So it's not just feature, it's a bit more diversified. So I hope you guys see it. And I hope we started involving more people as well from the community in the roadmap. Maybe I shouldn't say it, but we started involving our advisors, for example, and we gave a bit of sneak peek for the roadmap. But the next part is to actually involve you players, all players on Discord at least, to start in sharing the roadmap, getting your feedback, etc. So that's one of the plans as well that we have actually for Q1, Q2 already next year, to make everybody involved, all the players really involved in what's coming up, to communicate it with you, but also to have your feedback impact even more, if that makes sense. Staying vague, but giving you a teaser of what it could be.
Speaking about advisors, we are always open to new applications from the players. If you feel like you would like to contribute to the game and provide more feedback and deeper feedback. And also, guys, we are looking for a couple of server moderators. We wouldn't mind a couple of extra hands dealing with bots and spam, and just keeping the server in lines with community guidelines. So if you want to join us like that, just drop us a message on Discord at any time and let's chat about it. Speaking of new systems and new features,
yes.
Will there be new gameplay mechanics in the future, such as infantry get down and crawl, or take different form of covers, or maybe mount a tank? We just released Hoha that can transport units inside, but that's not everything that we could do with the infantry, I believe. No,
you're right. It's overall answer, yes. Now that's not yet in the roadmap, let's be honest. Let's see how unit skills impact and what you guys are doing with unit skills already with infantry units. But we want infantry, they still have a point in endgame when you reach tier 3, etc. But in terms of map control, etc. But we want to give it, ideally, some maps could be a bit more interesting, if actually, for example, when you capture a building, it means something, The infantry maybe gets different bonuses, when you get into the building. It's not that easy to take it out. You don't just bring your tank 2 or 3 shots, and it's actually much easier, right, to destroy infantry in buildings than infantry out of buildings if you have artillery, etc. So we want to work on that and to give this unicity, that to infantry that still work sabotaging, taking cover. Maybe not crawl, but taking cover is something that we want to touch on at some point. I think it's just going to require some time because we need to check how it impacts the gameplay. It needs to feel smooth, animation needs to be nice, etc. So there's a few things that you can already do now. You can block the line of sight, etc. But we want to improve that even more, and again to have more map synergies. Don't know when, to be honest, but we want it to happen at some point. It's just going to require a lot of playtest, etc. But we want to touch on that for sure. It's something very exciting, that we want. And in all war games, if you compare us to some competition game like Company of Heroes or something like that, there's some mechanics that they're playing a bit more with than we are, and we want to get some of that back a little bit to give really that, maybe that tank actually, if you put that unit behind it, it's actually really good because it's actually compensate that this tank is not really good with that, but we have different approaches. Sounds really promising, at least to me. And the last question, I believe, would be about shop and offers. Sometimes the player notices that they get different offers compared to their friends, even when they're similar rating, similar ranking. How does it happen, and do we plan any improvements for the offer system so it's more fair to all the players in general? Yes, it's a bit tricky because all the players have a bit of a different experience, and we need to tailor a bit what we offer to the user. So we have several parameters that are not bound to ratings that impact. In the future, we have something that we want to work on, that will be to tailor a bit more the content, that if you usually like this kind of offers, or if you just don't care about some kind of other offers, we offer you more of this or more of this. So we want to have a system that's a bit more universal, But right now, I mean, what we have is universal. It's just a couple of extra parameters that are bound to your profile that tailor the offers a little bit. We just want to do it a little bit even more in the future, but to offer you just better content. The point is just to offer you, as simple as that, better content. But there, right now, to make the answer short, it's just we have all the parameters and rating to impact that.
Understood. And the last question related to the store is, why is there no $1 offer for high ranks in the store?
That's part of the previous answer and part also of the price of content that you can access, you know. If we offer you, let's say, one shard of a unit at $1,
wouldn't make sense.
If you know, if you're in League 10, etc., you're like, okay, my guys are level 10, like, what do you want me to do that?
Yeah,
you know?
Do you want to buy, I don't know, 5 rare cards for $1 at level 12 or 15? Most likely not.
That's the part, you know, that's a bit, we have it, you know, for new units, but it's not $1, but you know, sometimes it's one shard, etc. But it's a bit tricky. You know, like the content that we could offer for $1 that will make sense to that progression is not fully making sense. So
Probably.
Maybe one day we'll keep thinking about it, you know. Thanks for the feedback, but it needs to make sense. The higher league, the less it makes sense.
Okay, thank you very much, Elio, for answering the questions. Thank you, our players, for asking those questions. I hope it gets a little more clear about where the game is heading towards, where our plans and priorities are for the next, not even month, but maybe years, quarters.
Yes.
I hope that helps you, and join us, follow our socials, join our Discord to provide more feedback, to ask more questions, to find more about the game, and obviously to collaborate with other players. And as for now, I guess that would be it. Thank you for tuning in, and see you in the battle.
See you guys.